What's up, people? It's Daily Betslip time on a Wednesday. Ben Heisler, Peter Dewey, the gang is here. Good to have you all with us on what should be a fun show heading into the Stanley Cup final. Peter, I confirm this with the great hockey minds of the world. You do not call it the NHL Stanley Cup Finals; it is finals, singular. Just to make sure for anybody listening that if you're at the water cooler amongst your coworkers or your friends and having a beer and talking about the Stanley Cup final is the way that it should be referred. We'll, of course, have that as our game of the night between the visiting Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. We will dive into our best bets in about 4 or 5 minutes. We got plenty on the docket for tonight, including a little sneak peek at the NBA Finals for tomorrow night as part of our best bets for tonight. So you want to stick around for that. Get your betting started a little bit on the earlier side. A brutal bad beat that happened to your boy, which we'll talk about coming up in just a second. But Peter, good to have you on. I know that there is a new sign behind you. Fill us in for anybody that's watching on a small screen what the Peter Dewey Woody Page message of the day says.
Yeah, so today we got Can You Say Three-Peat? I'm going to get out in front of it. I'm taking the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup. So we're here with the three-peat sign. I'm trying to keep these topical. So NHL Day, let's do that hockey. I'm all about it. But yeah, I can't tell you the last time there was a three-peat in hockey. So I think it would be pretty cool. Just in any sport, honestly, winning 3 titles in a row is extremely hard. So I'm all for
glad
it.
you brought that up because the last three-peat took place in the early 1980s. No, I was not alive for that. Neither were you. But I felt the old jokes coming from the BetSided community. It was the New York Islanders who won 4 in a row back in the early 1980s. So the Lightning trying to become the first team to do the three-peat since then. Should be a really, really fun series between 2 outstanding teams, which we will dive into coming up in just a second. Also, feel free to go ahead and jump in on our poll of the night for the game of the night. You can find that on our Twitter page at BetSided. You can also head on over right here if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're not watching us on YouTube and watching us on social, just head on over to YouTube, search BetSided, and you'll find the live stream right there. You can participate in our chat. You can weigh in with some of your picks of the day as well. We'll answer any questions. It's a lot of fun over on the YouTube side, and make sure you guys give us a thumbs up and subscribe as well. All right, so let's talk about a bad beat that happened to your boy Peter, because I had one last night that I was fully prepared to talk about. The Minnesota Lynx and the Seattle Storm were going up against it. I had the under in that game, and I get a little alert from BetStamp where we post all of our plays in the interest of transparency over at BetSided, and then get an alert saying, "Hey, with 3 seconds left, your under bet is now an over bet that you lost on." So I was like, "Oh, great!" But then again, it happened today, where the Las Vegas Aces playing an early afternoon game. It was a noon tip in Dallas against the Wings on Wednesday. And it got off to a great start for Dallas. The Aces were a 9-point favorite. They're the best team in the WNBA. They scored 14 points in the first quarter. The Aces were up 44-35, 9-point lead going into halftime. Then Dallas gave up 57 points in the final 20 minutes of the game. The under of 175, one of the higher overs that you'll see on the board for the WNBA, comes crashing down with 2 meaningless free throws with about 20 seconds left. Pete, we've all been on runs where we're feeling hot, we're doing well. We've also felt the pain and agony of some bad beats along the way. I've had a handful of bad beats come within several games of each other. I have not suffered 2 bad beats on totals, particularly on unders, in less than 18 hours. I don't know if there's anything that you can top on that, but a couple of daggers in the league that I'm trying to get excited about, share with our wonderful audience. That was an absolute killer.
Yeah, geez, man, that is tough. I'm starting to think maybe the Vegas is out here. They saw you were killing it in the WNBA. They're like, we got to stop this guy. This is not fair here. But I will say, I see Cody dropped a bad beat in the chat too. I had a good beat in the NBA that got paid out today because Draymond Green, I had him 21.5 points, rebounds, assists, the under in game 5. He had 22. And then the NBA made a stat correction today, took away one of his rebounds, gave me the under, so I got the payout for that today. So that was a nice little thing to wake up to this morning. I was kind of pumped about that one.
Excellent. Yeah, listen, if I can lose a bet in a heartbreaking fashion only so you can gain a win a couple days after, I'm happy for you. Like this is what we do for each other as teammates. So if I'm losing, you're winning. That's the most important part to me. And like you mentioned, our guy Cody weighed in over on the chat that the Phillies were down 1-0 down to their last strike, and of course hit a walk-off 3-run home run, so they cover on the money line as well as the run line against the Marlins. And Miami had come into that series playing pretty well. I was on them as an underdog pick. I think it was either last night or on Monday night when Sandy Alcantara was on the mound. But the Phillies, Pete, finding some more ways. They're making some waves in that NL East. With Atlanta now winning 13 in a row. They're, of course, playing tonight, which we'll get to coming up in a little bit. So some bad beats in the early portion of Wednesday, which isn't fun, but hopefully for the evening slate, none of you that are watching, as well as for myself and Peter, I have to deal with any of those brutal bad beats. But let's dive into it for best bets for today. I'm looking at a play in Major League Baseball as well as the WNBA. I mentioned that Peter and I both have NBA plays tonight as well. But you also have a Major League Baseball play, not only one, but you have two of them. So tell me where you're looking on today's Major League slate.
Yeah, the first one I'm looking at my my Yankees against the Rays today. And I'm going to take a prop in this one. I'm taking the first 5 innings under 3.5, which is it's a low number. Obviously, like you're paying a bit of a premium here, but we got two of the best pitchers in the AL on the mound. Shane McClanahan, who is tied with Justin Verlander as the favorite for the Cy Young at WinBet, and Nestor Cortez, who's actually coming off a bad start. He was not good his last outing against the Twins. Only went 4 1/3 innings and gave up 4 runs, but I think this is a bounce back spot for him. The Rays have been horrible hitting the ball lately. They got shut out last night by the Yankees in a 2-0 game. They're 25th right now in OPS over the last 15 days. So just really not hitting the ball at all. So I think this is a bounce back spot for Cortez. And then to talk about Shane McClanahan, who a couple weeks ago on the show, I mentioned he's a candidate to win the AL Cy Young. I really liked his odds before they jumped. He's in the 94th percentile in expected ERA, 97th percentile in strikeout percentage, 96th percentile whiff percentage. So I just think this is two really, really good starters. I don't want to. I was debating backing the Rays as an underdog with McClanahan on the mound since they're 9-3 in his starts, but they just can't hit the ball right now. So I'd rather just say I think these starters both get through 5 innings. I think they get through it pretty easily. I like the under. It's only -120.
McClanahan in particular is a guy that I'm really intrigued by because his strikeout rate, if you're looking at guys that are just whiffing at a ton, McClanahan's been that guy for much of the season. He's the number one guy in tonight's slate. So if you're looking at like daily fantasy plays, he's certainly in play. But in particular, I think these matchups against the Yankees, they always kind of bring the best out of both sides. And it's nice. It's actually a little bit refreshing to know that you're seeing a bit of an under situation, more of a pitcher's duel compared to the normal slugfest when these two teams typically play each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yesterday's game was weird because I thought that yesterday was going to be a chance for some value on the Rays just because Garrett Cole has not been great lately, and then the Yankees shut him out. So I've made me feel a lot better about this under bet going into today.
All right, so we got Yankees and Rays, first 5 innings, under 3.5 runs at -120. I got a player prop for you, and you're going with your Yankees. I typically don't like to bet on my team, the Chicago Cubs, and frankly, if you've watched them play, you would understand why it's been a good idea to fade the Chicago Cubs throughout most of the year. But there is a player prop that I like in particular for tonight, and that is with their starting pitcher, whose name just completely escapes me, Caleb Killian, over 3.5 strikeouts at -130 tonight. Again, another situation at Wrigley Field where the wind is blowing out, could be upwards of 18 to 20 miles per hour going out to left field. I don't think he's necessarily going to be dominant, but it's a fairly low total for strikeouts for a guy that's been averaging about 10 per game both at the major league level in his last start against the Cardinals, which has been a superb hitting team this year. So imagine making your debut against Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado and Tommy Edman, three of the best hitters in baseball this year. Came out, did a really nice job. His expected ERA was indicative of the fact that he was actually a little bit unlucky in giving up those 3 runs. He's the number 1 Cubs pitching prospect, top 4 in their system over at MLB.com. He's somebody, Peter, that is going to throw strikes, and he also has done a good job this year of limiting home runs. His home runs per 9 innings is at 0.63. That's an excellent number. And the Padres still swing and miss plenty of times. We talked about Kyle Hendricks on the show yesterday. His prop was set at only 2.5, ended up finishing the game with, I believe, 6 strikeouts. Only gave up 1 run in his 5 innings of work with similar wind conditions. So I think Hendricks can give him a little bit of pointers in this game. The Cubs bullpen has been really struggling as of late. I think he can hit this number fairly easily. And the other thing too is with the Cubs giving up all sorts of run and their bullpen really being taxed, they might need Killian to go 5+ innings just to be able to help save the bullpen a little bit too.
I like that a lot. Sometimes with strikeout props, it's all about, can this guy get me 4 or 5 innings? So I like that a lot, especially 3.5. It's a really low number. I think we talked about this. It might've been you and I on the show last week, how sometimes, I think it was when I had Jordan Lyles, sometimes you just see the number that low and you're just you almost are like, I have to take it, because if this guy pitches 6 innings, am I going to sweat 6 innings of baseball of him not striking anybody out? It just feels like, this number, especially with the Padres strikeout rate, is a good spot to take it.
What about for you for your other Major League Baseball bet of the night? Where are you going?
Yeah, so I'm staying in New York. I'm going to take the Mets as home dogs against Corbin Burnes and the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think this is an interesting one, because Reed wrote this preview up for us today at BetSided. And when I was reading through his preview, I was like, damn, I really agree with what he's saying here. The Brewers are bad right now, man. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games, 29th in OPS since the month of June started. They're facing a lefty in David Peterson, and Milwaukee has not hit lefties well all year. The whole season, they're 25th in the league in OPS against left-handed pitchers. Meanwhile, the Mets are 3rd in OPS against right-handers. Granted, the Mets have been a really good offense all year, so I don't think, their number really matters as much, lefty versus righty. But the Mets are 9-8 straight up as underdogs this year. Underdogs at home. I know Corbin Burnes is really, really good, but I just don't know if the Brewers are going to score. They've been terrible over the last 2 weeks. So it's very rare you're going to get the Mets, who are right now the best team in the National League, as an underdog. I think it's worth taking a shot on them tonight.
That makes me feel pretty good, considering that I bet my friend Megan is a diehard Milwaukee Brewers fan. I tried to get just the game last night. She insisted on the series. So I said, well, I don't know. Corbin Burnes is on the mound on Wednesday night. You got Andy Ashby on Thursday. You go ahead and get the Mets as short dogs at home to go ahead and cover in that game. I'm feeling pretty good about that bet cashing. Winner gets a 6-pack of the other's choice. So I like the fact that Very I might nice. Have an opportunity to win it with a full game to spare. That's something that I like very much. So those are our MLB picks. For my WNBA pick of the night, and again, please, to the gambling gods above, I cannot take another bad beat. 2 in 18 hours is just a tad bit much for me. So let's go with a matchup that I actually do feel really good about. And I think it's just because this team is very good, but still maybe a little bit overvalued based off their schedule. The Atlanta Dream come into Connecticut tonight, take on a Sun team that just lost their most recent game to the Chicago Sky at home. We need to talk about how dominant the Dream's defense has been. And I know that they're coming off of a couple rough losses on the road, but even still, this is a team that is rated tops in the WNBA in opponent points per game and opponent points per 100 possessions. The Dream is a very good defensive team. And the fact that they're 9.5 on the road is a fairly disrespectful line, if we're being perfectly honest. This is a team that has been outstanding defensively. They have some issues scoring from time to time, but they're going to be in this game throughout because of their ability to be able to double inside, to be able to take away a lot of easy points. The Dream is one of those teams, especially with Ryan Howard leading the way, that I feel secure in them to go on the road against a team like Connecticut, who's been a little bit up and down at home. And they haven't been playing deep rotations as well. In their previous game against Chicago, they only played 7. So I think Atlanta's going to hang around here. Maybe they don't win. I'm not picking them to win outright, but 9.5 just feels like too many points to me. I know the Connecticut Sun, Peter, though, that's your team. And I do expect them to win, but the Dream's going to make some adjustments. They gave up a season high 90 points against Mercury last time out. They're going to make those changes and stay in this game on the road against Connecticut tonight.
Yeah, I don't hate that play at all. As you know, I've said on the show before, I'm a big Ryan Howard guy, so I think she's the real deal in Atlanta. But yeah, the Sun have been interesting to me this year because like last year, Jonquil Jones wins MVP. Like I thought they were going to win the title last year, come up short in the playoffs, and it just doesn't feel like they have right now like they're the same team they did last year. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't feel like they're as good to start this season as they were last season, where you're like, okay, yeah, they might be the title favorites. Like that's very clearly the Aces right now.
Yeah.
So I don't hate this at all. You're almost getting doubled. Like I think they can keep it within 10. Like that's a lot of points. So yeah, I don't hate that at all.
All right. So, by the way, if you want to find any more WNBA picks, make sure you guys head on over to BetSided. Donovan and I put together our best WNBA picks of the night. We do it every day that there's WNBA action. So head on over for that. From the WNBA, Peter, to the NBA, no game tonight, but we will have game 6 on Thursday. And you and I both have a play ahead of that opportunity in that matchup. So tell me where you like your favorite play of the night for tomorrow night so that we can get a head start on our NBA bets.
Yeah, so I've bet 3 props very consistently in the finals and in these playoffs. Or 3 bets, I'm sorry. One has been I've been betting on the Celtics almost every game. Part of it is an emo hedge for myself because I really don't want to see the Celtics win the title. But the other thing has been is I really do think defensively and like just the way their team is constructed, they're going to be in every game. So whenever they're an underdog, I think they have a chance to cover. When they're a favorite, don't mind them winning. But I'm taking a prop on the Celtics. I'm taking Jaylen Brown under 24.5 points. I've taken this probably 7 or 8 times in the playoffs so far. And Jaylen Brown, he's only cleared this number in 6 of 23 playoff games. And yet odds makers keep hanging it at 24.5. It was at 23.5 on the road in game 5. I stayed away. He went under anyway. And then they come back here in game 6, and I saw the 24.5. And I was like, it's an auto bet for me at this point because he's landed on 24 a bunch of times. But when you look at Jaylen Brown, it's been like not boom or bust, but it's been like he's either going for 30 or he's going for like low 20s, high teens. That's just been the MO for him in these playoffs. Going back to Boston in a must-win game 6, backs against the wall. I think a lot of people coming into the series, Ben, kind of discounted how good this Warriors defense was. Like the whole talk was how great the Boston defense was, and rightfully so. But the Warriors were number 2 in the league in defensive rating in the regular season. Jaylen Brown has kind of been asked to do a little bit more because Andrew Wiggins has played fantastic defense on Jason Tatum. And he did not shoot the ball well in the last game. Like I said, 6 times in 23 tries. I feel like it's an auto bet at this point. If he hits it, he hits it. But I think the under is the play for sure.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm also with you on the Celtics for game 6. I predicted Warriors in 6 to start the series, but we've also seen too many times where Golden State's had an opportunity to close out and the urgency is just not there. And with Boston, it will be, especially at home. And yeah, they haven't been as good of a team actually at home compared to on the road over the course of the entirety of the postseason. But I think -4 is a reasonable number. I think they come out just full on guns blazing and hitting a bunch of shots early and kind of taking the Warriors out of it before the series goes back to 7. I do like one number, and I know that it hasn't hit in a while other than in game 5, but Derek White's assist prop to me just feels way too low. Go back to the numbers that he put up in the previous portion against Miami. He was getting anywhere between 6 and 5, had 3 assists in game 1, and he's getting plenty of minutes too, with the exception of game 5. But I also noticed from him, Peter, you can tell me if you agree, it felt like White was kind of working his way into more of a distributor as the series has gone on. And I know that he dropped 16 in the loss in game 4. But, 1 assist in that game, had 2 in the others. Like, he's been right on the edge, and it's such a low number that my focus on him, and his focus has been a little bit more distribution, especially with someone like Marcus Smart, who is starting to shoot the ball a little bit more in the series, and he was connecting in the second half from downtown when Boston couldn't hit anything in the first half. So when White's on the floor, I think they're going to look to him more as a distributor if he's not trying to go directly to the bucket. So I think 2.5 feels a little bit too low, especially in a game that Boston needs to win.
Yeah, I don't mind the 2.5. Derek White has to be better. I mean, he literally couldn't stay on the floor in game 5. They had to pull him like 2 minutes into the fourth quarter. Udoka took him out and put Smart back in because he just wasn't being aggressive. His big thing is like the games that he's played well in these playoffs, like you can see it from the jump. He's aggressive. He's either looking for a shot or looking to create for others. I think he gets back to that in game 6. I think this is going to be one of those where, they watch the film and they're like, hey, Derek, you can't be, passing up a wide open 3 or, dribble drive and then just kick the ball out for the sake of kicking the ball out. Like they're going to need him to make decisions. And like you said, like Smart has shot the ball better. So if they can get to a point where they can put Brown, Tatum, Smart, White, and one of the bigs on the floor at the same time, I think that's right. Boston's best lineup. So I think in that case, like, yes, Derek White becomes the more of a facilitator, and 2.5 is a pretty low number for a guy who's a very good passer.
All right, so 2.5 for Derek White. Let's take a look at our best bets of the night. We're going with, at least on my end, I like the over for Cubs starter Caleb Killian against the San Diego Padres. Just 3.5 strikeouts should be a fairly straightforward number for him to climb. The Atlanta Dream, been a really good team, the best defensive team in the WNBA. You're getting 9.5 on the road against Connecticut tonight. Like them to stay involved and hang in the matchup. And then over 2.5 assists for Derek White in game 6 of the NBA Finals tomorrow. Our guy Pete's going with the under 3.5 for the Yankees and Rays in the first 5 innings. Also another under on the board with Jaylen Brown points. And the Mets money line against the Milwaukee Brewers, slight dogs going up against Corbin Burns in Citi Field. We do have some picks coming in from the community, Pete. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the ones that we've gotten for the show today and see if they match up with where we project things to go. This is from Eric at enull28 on Twitter. Luis Castillo over 5.5 strikeouts against Joanne's Arizona Diamondbacks. Castillo's put up good numbers this year. He's always sort of been that guy that never seems to get enough run support. He always has a terrible win-loss record, which really doesn't matter in baseball. But Arizona, when they're not locked in, will get a ton of swings and misses. They still rank among the top 8 in strikeout percentage in Major League Baseball. So 5.5 feels like a reasonable number for Castillo in a climate-controlled environment to have to pitch in. I think it makes sense. I know that Cincinnati can be a bit of a bandbox, but he's pitched well both there and also on the road. So I think it's a reasonable number for him to hit tonight.
Yeah, this one's hanging on right now. This game started at 3:40. Castillo has 3 strikeouts through 5 innings. So I'm going to need him to stay in this game a little bit longer or have a nice 6th. But I didn't mind the play at all. I think, like you said, Arizona strikes out over 9 times a game. So it's worth a shot for sure.
And Castillo heading into today's game, averaging about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So it's kind of on pace for him, that 5.5, a fairly reasonable number, especially if he is able to go deep. What about the final one that we've gotten from the BetSided community tonight? It's our guy Beers and Bow Ties at CheeseGrater23. Lightning team total over 2.5 at -130. They have hit this in 9 out of 17 playoff games, 53%. In my opinion, the Avalanche have seen less competition. I see this being a 5-3 Lightning win. So then you definitely want to be not just on the Lightning team total of 2.5, but also the total of 6 in this game as well, if you see it being 5-3. Honestly, I think if there's going to be an opportunity, we'll get to this a little bit more in game of the night, but you have a Colorado team that is going to be extremely rusty. Like the last time they played, it's been over a week, and we still don't know as of this show who their starting goalie is going to be. So regardless of who it is, you're talking about a Lightning team that's focused, that's been in this situation before, that hasn't had any issues really on the road. I think it makes sense to go ahead and focus on the over, especially where overs have been a little bit more aggressive and hitting more often in the Stanley Cup playoffs than we've seen in years past.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And I want to shout out our guy, Cody, who's a friend of the show, frequent viewer. He also sent me another best bet. We weren't able to get it on the show, but he said Adam Duvall over 1.5 total bases plus 115 for the Braves tonight. Ben, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that one. The Braves are playing the Nationals, so he's 7 for 15 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs against the National starter today. So I believe it's Eric Fede, I believe. Like
yeah, okay. So Fede actually has been destroyed over his career against the Atlanta Braves.
Okay, there we go.
That adds up. You got a red hot hitter in Duvall. It makes plenty of sense. We're also talking about 2 teams that are top 5 in overs this year. Yeah. So might as well go ahead and jump on total bases for somebody like Duvall. He can be a very good power hitter as well, but he just needs to ring one into the double, ring one into the gap, and that should hit for him as well. So those are best bets from us as well as from our great Twitter community. Speaking of Twitter, Peter, I know that you and I both have our U.S. Open picks ready to go. But if you do follow us on BetSided, or maybe you don't, I would highly encourage you to go to twitter.com/BetSided, load up the app, find us, because right at the very top of the page, you will see an opportunity to enter a contest and giveaway. And it's not just any giveaway. You have a chance to win $1,000, and it's the easiest process that I think you can make for a U.S. Open giveaway, because all you have to do is follow BetSided. You got to retweet the tweet and then reply with your pick to win the U.S. Open and use the hashtag contest entry. And the winner will get $1,000 in a Visa gift card. Terms and conditions are all right there as well. If we have multiple winners, like let's say Rory ends up winning it, and 10 of you choose Rory out of the several hundred that we've gotten so far, then it will be a drawing at random to determine the $1,000 winner. So head on over to BetSided, check it out, enter the contest. It literally could not be easier to put yourself in a position to try and win $1,000 just by following us, retweeting, and telling us who you think is going to win the U.S. Open. By the way, Pete, who do you have winning the U.S. Open?
I have a friend of the program, Will Zalatoris, winning this one. Was listening to our golf expert, Ian McMillan. He talked about how it's really important, strokes gained off the tee. Will Zalatoris 6th on tour right now. He's also 1st in strokes gained in approach. So he's not a great putter, but he's going to get himself in situations where he's going to have birdie looks. So I think he can get a couple down. Will Zalatoris just over these last couple of years in his PGA Tour career, he's always hanging around in majors, man. Top 10s all over the board. So if he's there, I don't mind him. I think he's 25-1 right now at WinBet. So I think he's got a good chance to win it this week.
Zalatoris is always going to be hanging around these majors. It's just a question of whether or not he can close it out on Sunday. But for someone who's 24, 25 years old, playing awesome golf at the biggest opportunistic times, it's hard for me to go against it. And you're right. This lines up very well for him, who's been so good off the tee. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth, your guy, at 30-1. And by the way, the odds for Spieth at WinBet have been the best that I've seen compared to several other books. So if you have WinBet available, go ahead and jump on it at 30-1. So you talked about ability off the tee. He's actually top 10 over his last 24 rounds in strokes gained off the tee. He's also number 1 in the U.S. Open field in strokes gained around the green and strokes gained tee to green. So every aspect of his game right now is great, with the exception of putting. Spieth has had a really rough year putting. However, in 3 of his last 4 tournaments, he has actually gained strokes and gained 5 strokes with his putter, Peter, at the Memorial, which just took place a couple weeks ago. So I'm all aboard Spieth if he has confidence with his putter, because the rest of the game is lining up. This guy's won a major before. He's won the U.S. Open back in 2015. He's won 3 majors in his past. Feels like it's an opportunistic time and a really good price for your guy. Your guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to question that one. I like that a lot. I'm not going to question it at all.
All right. So, by the way, we've had some awesome golf coverage, by the way, from Ian McMillan, from Joe Summers over at BetSided. Make sure you guys check it out. Also, Green on the Greens right here on YouTube with Ian and Cody Williams, FanSided's PGA Insider. Check that out. All the information you need to make sure that your pools, your bets, whatever you're looking for is good to go for the U.S. Open. Let's move on. We got a fun game in the NHL tonight. But before we dive into the actual game itself, we're going to look at the latest Conn Smythe Trophy odds. And for anyone familiar with the Conn Smythe Trophy, it is the trophy given out for the MVP of the playoffs. It is not a Stanley Cup final MVP. It is the MVP of the entire postseason. So we have a general idea of who could be contending for it, and be a very much a surprise if it didn't go to somebody on the Lightning or the Avalanche. But the latest consensus odds have Cal McCarr of the Avalanche, defenseman, at plus 180. His teammate Nathan MacKinnon at plus 215. Then you go to the Lightning side with Nikita Kucherov. He's 4-1. Goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky of Tampa Bay is 4-1. Steven Stamkos of Tampa Bay is 9-1. Mikko Rantanen 20-1, and a few other names along the way as well. So we were taking a look at some of the possibilities to win the Conn Smythe that we should go ahead and consider wagering on before the puck drops for game one tonight. So having looked at the entire field, Peter, is there anybody on the odds board that you say to yourself, boy, this is a good price and a really good opportunity to jump on board before the line possibly moves even further in their direction?
Yeah, so like you said, Ben, it's most likely, I would be shocked if it's not from somebody in this series. If it wasn't going to be, it would have to be Igor Shesterkin from the Rangers, because they had no business making the Eastern Conference Finals without him. But I'm taking another goaltender, Andrei Vasilevsky, plus 400. I think he's the best bet on the board right now. You look at Vasilevsky's stats. He won this award last year, had a 93.7% save percentage in the playoffs. This year, he's posted his second best save percentage in the playoffs at 92.8. So very, very similar numbers. He's only allowed 39 goals in 17 playoff games. And the thing I think about in this series, like we saw the Avalanche play off very offensive hockey, very up tempo against the Oilers in the Western Conference Finals. The Lightning have not allowed that many goals. So far, they've been very good in terms of expected goals against as well. So I think this might come down to a couple low-scoring games. If that's the case, I feel like the Lightning have a huge edge in having Vasilevsky in net. Like you mentioned earlier, we don't even know who Colorado's goaltender is going to be tonight yet. So the thing for Vasilevsky, I think, is he has a chance where if this ends up being a series where we don't see a ton of high-scoring games, I don't know if one offensive player stands out enough to win, to like take away. Like I think right now, you can make the argument Vasilevsky's been their most important player. So I don't know if there's going to be an offense player that plays well enough in the Stanley Cup final to kind of take that away from him. He's at 4-1. I think they win this series, as the sign behind me says. So I'll take him for sure.
I don't mind the play at all, given how dominant he's been, not just in the postseason, but also in elimination games.
Yeah.
If Tampa gets to the point where they have one more game to go, it's almost an automatic. You kind of just have to take Tampa based over not only his postseason over this year, but also the last 2 years. But I'll give you another name because you and I both are intrigued from a series perspective with the Lightning as underdogs here. But I'm going to go a little bit further down the list and take Steven Stamkos, center for Tampa Bay, at 9-1. So he's leading Tampa Bay in goals in the postseason. He's 2 goals behind Nate MacKinnon of Colorado. Saw some of these numbers from the Hockey News, and I thought they were really impactful towards making an argument in favor of Stamkos. So he leads Tampa Bay in a stat called actual goals for rating, which is basically the percentage of time on the ice when your team scores a goal. It's sort of like plus minus, but more focused on this guy is around when goals are scored. So he actually leads the entire postseason with Tampa having 30 goals when he's on the ice. He also leads the Lightning in eye shooting percentage and leads them in goals as well. There's been some movement on his line. It opened up at plus 14 consensus. It is now down to 9-1. And Pat Maroon, this is a crazy stat. You talk about being at the right place at the right time. So Pat Maroon is now playing for his 4th Stanley Cup victory in a row. So he's been on Tampa the last 2 years, was on the team that won the Stanley Cup the year before. So this is somebody that you would trust your opinion on when it comes to knowing how to win a Stanley Cup. He was quoted as saying yesterday that Steven Stamkos is the heartbeat right now of our team. So we know that narrative tends to play a role here. If Stamkos has a great final round and Tampa goes and wins their 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup, to me, I think it's going to be very difficult to not consider him as a great value here, knowing that he's leading the way for Tampa to come and do it again in a year where they weren't the most dominant team in the NHL, but they knock off 2 of the most dominant teams in the league this year. So I think 900 is still a really good price point for somebody that is absolutely in contention for this award.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like, I think if you're really looking for a value, you have to take somebody on the Lightning just because McKinnon is probably going to win it. If it's him or Makar is probably going to win it. If it's the Avalanche, and they're both so high up the odds board, like it's a toss up on who you're going to take there.
Right.
So if you're really looking for some value, I think any of these Lightning guys, like they've done it 2 times. They're about to do it 3. Like it's worth it. And not 9-1, especially. I like that bet a lot.
All right. So those are our picks for the Conn Smythe. Peter's going with Lightning goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky at 4-1. I like Steven Stamkos at 9-1. If you want to weigh in with your Conn Smythe bet, go ahead and let us know in the chat over the course of the show. But let's talk about the actual game itself, Pete. We got Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals over at WynnBET tonight. Really, if you think about the matchup, it's tough to argue that these aren't the 2 best teams in the league this year. I know that Florida finished with the best record and a historic offense, but Colorado's been the favorite throughout the course of the postseason. You have Tampa Bay looking on being at the edge of a dynasty. They are in the series plus 145, and that number actually opened at WynnBET at plus 200. We wrote about the crazy money that's coming on Tampa Bay over at BetSided. You can check that out over on our NHL page. Colorado to win the series is minus 175. As for Game 1 tonight, you can get Tampa at plus 140. Colorado is the favorite at home at minus 160 with an over-under of 6. All right. Break it down for me, Peter. Where are you looking to go in this matchup? Are you looking on the side? Are you looking on the total? Are you looking spread? What is your best bet for tonight's game?
The repeat. Lightning plus 140 right here. They're winning Game 1.
They got to win 3 more.
They got to win 4. It starts tonight. It starts
Okay.
tonight. Game 1 tonight. It starts. The thing I think about, Ben, is Colorado finds themselves in the same spot the Lightning were entering the Eastern Conference Finals, where they won their previous series very quickly, very handily. And they had like a week and a half off. And then they came back. The Lightning lost 2 games in a row to the Rangers. Finally turned it on in Game 3. You're able to get a comeback win. They end up going on to win 4 straight. Colorado's in a spot, though, where they're playing a more experienced team, obviously. They've won back-to-back Stanley Cups. That is coming off momentum of 4 straight wins. And it's not like they're walking into this series on no rest. They've had a few days of rest here. So I don't think the rest advantage for Colorado. I think it's more the rust. And I hate that, sometimes these narratives kind of come, but like it is a thing. Like they haven't played in like 10 days. So when you put that in a Lightning team that still is semi-rested, they got a ton of rest earlier in these playoffs when they swept Florida. Now, I think you're getting a Game 1 where maybe Tampa looks a little bit sharper. They have the goaltender advantage with Vasilevsky, and I think that's going to be the great equalizer in this series, and I think it matters a lot in Game 1, and we've seen it in some of these other series. They're like, some of these goalies have been single-handedly able to win their team's games, and like Vasilevsky, I mentioned it while I'm taking him in the Conn Smythe. Like he's saving 93% of the shots he's getting thrown at him over the last 3 straight Stanley Cup runs. Like this isn't a one-time thing. He's doing this every single time. That's why they're winning these Stanley Cups. Yeah. So I think having him as the anchor to their defense, and obviously they have the Kucherov, the Stamkos. They have a great offense as well. Both of these teams rank really high in terms of expected goals against, expected goals for. Like they're very close. If you go to moneypuck.com, they have like every team ranked out in a pretty sweet graph. They're very close. But at the same time, I'm going to side with the experience. I'm going to side with the team that is coming off 4 straight wins just a few days ago. Like I like the Lightning in this game. I think they set the tone in this series. I think they could win this series pretty easily, to be honest with you.
So to your point about Colorado being away from the ice for several games, yes, it's always important, especially with how many injuries pile up. And it's always kind of funny to hear about it the next day after the Stanley Cup final is done, of all the different players that were playing for the Stanley Cup, of all the different injuries they were playing through. And there's going to be several on both teams when those numbers start to come out. But that type of time away matters. And you mentioned Reed's article. He talked about that over at BetSided, that teams that sweep their opponents in the previous round of the Stanley Cup playoffs are 11-13 in the following series. So you talk about historical trends that actually back up the Lightning here, and the Lightning are underdogs in the series. So it works in their advantage that Colorado has had this much time away, even if they're able to recover and possibly get themselves a little bit more healthy. But I'm with you. I'm on Tampa Bay money line tonight. They have the best goalie in the postseason in Vasilevsky. And even if Darcy Kemper ends up starting tonight, he missed the last 3 games. I know that Pavel Francouz filled in admirably, and they got the 3 wins against a very good Edmonton offense. But those are still going to be rusty goaltenders compared to Vasilevsky, who has won the last 4 games in a row, didn't have that much time away, but enough to be able to, like you say, rest up. And Colorado, they've actually been road warriors in the postseason. They're undefeated away from home, but at home, they've actually had some times where they've let in some easy goals. Almost feels like their focus hasn't completely been there. I think about one of their brutal losses to the St. Louis Blues a couple rounds ago, where St. Louis ended up getting 3 goals in the third period, forced overtime, and ended up winning. So Colorado can be beat. And I think the Lightning are the team that can pull it off. Remember what they did to Florida? That was the best offense in the NHL this year, and they held them to 3 goals in 4 games. Like, they averaged more than 3.5 goals per game and took them completely out of the series. Colorado has a dynamic offense, but Tampa Bay's got a great defense and an unbelievable goaltender, and I like them in game 1 as well. Tampa Bay plus 140 on the money line. Maybe it's a trap, Peter. Maybe everybody is on Tampa Bay, and that's the direction that the odds makers want us to go. But the good news is, for the second consecutive day, at least that I've been on the show, our community stands behind our pick of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So everybody that voted on Twitter, everybody that voted here on YouTube, you are also going with the Tampa Bay Lightning at plus 140. And turns out it actually helped. You know, last night the community won with their MLB game of the night. They took the New York Mets. They sided with me there, which I was grateful for. But they're going to go back to us again, Peter, so we cannot let them down. Lightning plus 140. Let's go ahead and pad it with some money line numbers there. And that is our show for today. Again, a reminder, if you have not entered the BetSided US Open giveaway, head on over to Twitter. It's at BetSided. You cannot miss it. You literally have to just follow the account, use the contest entry hashtag, retweet the post, and send us who you think is going to win the U.S. Open to qualify for an opportunity to win $1,000. It will be Ian and Donovan on the program tomorrow for Daily Betslip. We will also see an appearance from one Peter Dewey for Peter's primetime parlay for Game 6, which I cannot wait for. Excited to ride the bandwagon with you for Game 6 of the NBA Finals. So, for my guy Pete, I'm Ben. Our thanks to Joanne, our producer and director, as well. We hope all of your best bets hit tonight, and we will see you tomorrow for a brand new edition of Daily Betslip. Until then, so long, everybody. Peace out.